Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
It's good to be back, everybody. Thank you so much for downloading another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. This is episode 156. My name is Chris Hollifield. I am your host. Thank you so much for checking out the show, the podcast, for listening, downloading, streaming, however you're consuming the show right now. Thank you so much. It means so much to me for your support, for all of everything you guys do, for all the downloads, for the comments, for the feedback. I love each and every one of you. Hey, the website, iamsaltlake.com, that's where you can go and connect with me. I got all the links right there to connect with me on all the social media sites, as well as dig through that back catalog and download any of the previous episodes of I Am Salt Lake. I've been talking to some great individuals. They got some great stories, and they're just waiting for you guys to listen in and consume them and get to know some of the great people here in the city that are making Salt Lake City the awesome city that it's become. Hey, there's links for iTunes, Stitcher Radio right there on the website, too. If you haven't left a review for the podcast, takes just a few minutes. It helps boost the show ratings, gets the show exposed to more people. And I love hearing what you guys are saying about the podcast. And share it with your family and friends on any social media site, Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media sites you guys are using nowadays. Feel free to share any of your favorite episodes with your family and friends. That way they can find out about the podcast and listen in and check out the show. They might like it. Like I said, brand new show. I was off last week. Many apologies to those of you that were expecting a new episode in your feeds. Make sure you're following me on Facebook. That way I can keep you guys up to date if there won't be a new episode out that week. Life has gotten kind of hectic. I'm working 2 jobs now. And the week before the last episode was supposed to be released, I went camping with my family, a little family reunion out near Heber, out near Strawberry Lake. It just kind of got hectic, scheduling conflicts, and just being out of town. I decided that a week off wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I think it was the first time in almost 2 years of doing this podcast that I had a week off from doing the show. And for those of you that have been listening to the podcast since the beginning, you remember when I used to do 2 episodes a week. I don't know how I did it. I feel like life was more hectic back then, so I don't know what's going on. You know, I don't know what it is. I just need to learn to balance life, scheduling appointments, not get so stressed out, take time for myself. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm learning to do right now is taking time out for myself and just enjoying friends and family and just learning to relax. I think so many of us just get so busy and life gets so crazy that we just get swallowed up by it and we don't take any time out. And you know what? I know that I'm one that I can learn a lot from those words. And for those of you that really know me, know that I can learn a lot from those words. Hey, this episode of the podcast, I'm really excited for this episode's guests, LD and Helen Cox from the local band Gravecode Nebula. They joined me on this episode. Helen Cox is one of my longest friends here in Salt Lake City. I've known her close to probably pushing on 13 years. She's a great individual. Honored to have her in my life. Honored to call her a friend. So it was nice to finally bring her on the podcast. Talk music, have her talk about her band Gravecode Nebula, as well as LD. If you might remember, LD joined me on episode 103. That if you have not listened to this episode, go back, listen to episode 103, get to know LD. But anyways, both of them are in the band Gravecode Nebula. They came on this episode. We talked about their upcoming tour. We talked about how Gravecode Nebula started, their music. We play a few tracks from their brand new CD. Just had a really great conversation. And like I said, I'm going to be jumping into that conversation here in just a few seconds. But before I do jump into that, I want to tell you about our voicemail line, 385-202-5926. It's always open. Give it a call. Let me know what you think of this episode. Let me know what you think of any of the other episodes. Or if you just want to say hello. I love to hear from you guys. I love to know what you guys are thinking of the podcast. I do this for free. I do it because I love you guys. I do it because I love doing it. And I do it because I love Salt Lake. But your feedback is helps keep me going and helps keep me motivated and helps keep me producing new episodes. So give that voicemail a call. Drop me an email. If you have any interest in coming on a future episode of the podcast, reach out to me. Let me know. Tell me your story. So with all that being said, thank you so much for checking out episode 156. Let's jump into that conversation that I had with Helen and LD as they came over to my downtown apartment here in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Anyways, LD's
Yes.
back on the show. Episode 103 is what the first time you were on the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the second time because I had to redo it because for some reason the first take I accidentally deleted it.
Everything, yeah. During the transfer.
That was a podcaster's nightmare to have to email the person and say, I'm an idiot. I accidentally deleted the file. Will you come back and sit in my apartment?
And it was okay because actually I think it was better the second time.
Yeah. So if you're listening, go back to 103 and listen to LD. We talked about Odium Totus.
Yeah.
Your band.
Yeah, which is kind of not done, but it's on the back burner for a while. Our drummers kind of stepped down. So kind of why we're here now is more
with Gravecode Nebula.
Gravecode Nebula, yeah.
Which I actually have Helen Cox. No offense to LD, but I was excited to bring Helen on the show because Helen happens to actually probably be one of my longest Salt Lake City friends.
That's true.
I mean, I've known people longer, but me and you have had the longest recent friendship in Salt Lake.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say recent because it's been
13 years,
13
probably
years.
12, 13 years.
I think I was 16.
16 years old, yeah. And I don't even mean that in a creepy way. She was 16 years old. No, but so you guys, Gravecode Nebula. You guys have been in other bands, though, together, right? So let's get a little history, or no?
No, this is the only band I'm in with Helen.
Really? For some reason, I thought you were in some other bands with her.
We've done it forever.
Yeah, we've been in the same band. This is actually, as of now, is my current longest running band since August of 2006. But she plays in other bands with people
that you know.
That we know. Yeah, that's the thing with how it is in Salt Lake. The scene is very...
it's inbred.
Inbred, incestuous, whatever you want to call it, for lack of better words. Yeah. But so we're all like really close circle of friends, you know. But yeah, this band is...
Let's hear the history of Gravecode Nebula.
Right.
Let's start there.
So yeah, it eventually... It started just three of us, as myself and then Helen and Anthony. And it's kind of funny now trying to think back on it, like, why did it start? It seems like a lot of it had to do with just conversations Helen and I had, as well as conversations with Anthony as well. We wanted to try and do something different that none of us had really done, kind of get more into doom metal kind of stuff. And basically through a lot of that, we just formed somehow.
So I want to picture this. You're hanging out at a party, or
like parties,
you're just hanging out at your house, and
chatting.
you said, "Let's start a band," or what? How does that happen?
Well, not necessarily always that. I mean, kind of a little bit of that, but more so, like we'd be at work, Helen and I, and we'd chat a lot on.
So you guys used to work together?
No, but she would be at her job, I'd be at my job, and this is back in the day, like where you'd use like MSN chat, Messenger.
I miss it.
Yeah.
We
so
AOL,
instead of working, we were
Messenger.
chatting all day.
We were multitasking.
Yeah.
No, but we would talk almost every day, and you know, there was a lot of music LD was into that I hadn't been exposed to yet, and you know, he was burning me CDs constantly, and you know, I was just eating it up, and you know, hey, do you want to start a band like this? He's like, yeah, I've been kind of wanting to. Turned out that Anthony lived down the street. He was interested as well. And we're just like, okay, let's jam.
In approximately, you might have mentioned, how many years ago was this then? Because it's been a while.
Almost 8.
8 years ago.
Next month, it'll be 8.
Now, is Anthony in the band anymore?
He's still, he started out playing drums and singing at the same time, which is fairly difficult to do when anytime you're playing more than one thing. And I mean, playing guitar and singing is hard enough, but to do drums and sing, it's next to impossible. So he started out doing that, and then, I mean, it was pretty much from the get-go, she was going to play bass because, you know, Helen plays bass, and then I play guitar, so I'm playing guitar. But I had a lot of ideas, stuff I couldn't do in bands then.
Like such as?
Like using a lot of effects and getting experimental and trying out different things, trying different tempo type stuff. But really we want to just do something unique in a sense that wasn't so much resting on what our influences were, and kind of just come up with some sort of unique entity of, the sound, the image, the presentation, all of it. It evolved over the years, but it's pretty much this, from what that idea was, it's pretty much hit it. And
so 8 years though. Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys seem like you're pretty good friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
of course.
That seems to be the biggest downfall in music, wouldn't you say, is people begin to hate each other after so many years? Would you say that that's why a lot of bands will break up? Maybe, anger problems or how do you guys remain good friends?
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying. And that was certainly the case, in my other longest band for that, which we talked about last time, was Ibex Throne. And that was 10 years.
And I probably should have listened to that episode.
That's all right. No,
but if people, I'm
not going to get
if we repeat stuff, then forgive us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get into that history because we've already went over it. But a lot of that had to do with, like, we were adolescent friends, and then we grew into adulthood, and then that was more difficult. But it's kind of different when you're adults and you're starting a new band, I guess. I don't know if other people feel the same.
A little more mature, you think?
Maybe.
You don't get as... Because, I mean, you're definitely, and again, we might have talked about this, you're a different LD than I knew when I met you for the first time.
Certainly.
I mean, we joked about that.
Yeah.
Even, about...
Yeah, I think so.
You are today versus... Same thing with Helen.
Well, and Helen would probably agree with what you just said, too. But, yeah, I mean, me and Helen have... been friends. We've gone through a lot of frick and frack, a lot of ups and downs.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you've gone through weeks where you're like, go to hell.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that you can care about anyone as a friend, as a family member, as a lover if you're not fighting, If you care about someone, you're going to fight the fight, and then you get over it and you hug and you play some music.
Yeah, right. You learn from your experience.
I think that turbulence is good in friendships, especially when you realize that you want to keep trying.
Yeah, and there's, and
we get along well.
We do, yeah. And same thing with Anthony, who I've known even longer, which this September will be 20 years we've been friends. So that's an incredibly long amount of time. That's more than half my life, right? So there's challenges there when you're, being in a band that long. But, the weird thing about Gravecode Nebula is it's changed in that we've had different members come and go. We've added members. So, now we have 6 people in the band. So we started with 3, now we're at 6. And, we started out just guitar, drums, bass, but now we have 2 guitars, a keyboard player, different drummer. This would be our 3rd drummer now. And, it's been a really kind of weird, bumpy ride. There's been a lot of, hiatus type situations, but we've always had that drive to make sure that we keep this thing going.
And why do you think you stayed focused and stayed driven? Like, what's in goals? I mean, do you guys all have the same goals with your music, do you think? Or like what's kept you going for all these years?
That's probably the number one thing is, we have the inspiration to do what we do and to go further with it. And there's a common goal. Going with this album that we started recording it in 2011. That's the Sempiternal Void album. And it took a while to record, and it just took so long for it to even be released. I mean, that's like 2 or 3 years in work right there.
How many albums do you guys have?
That's just the one.
Just
and
the
we
one
have
CD?
an EP before that, a split 7-inch with New Jersey band Krieg. But
not Creed.
Not Creed, yeah.
Which I think we talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
That will be the next split.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking at the CD now. I mean, the artwork is fantastic. Who did the artwork on the CD?
That would be Anthony. He does graphics, which we all kind of do. Helen's really good at graphics. So what's cool about this band is we can all collaborate visually with the image-wise, how we want to go with it. Everyone brings great ideas to the table that are inspiring, and I think that's why it endures. Is there's always something that's there's a lot of paths to be tread there.
Which we're going to play one of the songs from this CD here in a little bit. So we'll play some music. I won't sit here and say, well, describe your band. You know what I mean? That's like the worst thing to do, I think, to a musician. Or do you hear that a lot? Describe what you sound like.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like,
Does that get old as a musician to hear that?
Yeah,
to hear that
It's just hard to
question.
explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard to explain, especially to people who are like have no idea what this music and scene is about. I mean, I could give you, a gloss over it, a surface level. You can get deeper in it, but a lot of people, it's still very underground music. They're not going to understand it. And I was actually having a conversation the other day with someone about metal music and this more extreme underground side of it. It's really good stuff. It doesn't get the credit it deserves.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's off-putting to a lot of people, but there is so much that it's like a wide open spectrum of things you can add to it. I mean, there's elements of classical music, electronic music, folk music, all kinds can be put in, especially under this kind of like, lack of a better term, like kind of black metal, doom metal style. You can, where like thrash and heavy metal and things like that are kind of just, that's all it is. They don't really have a lot of that, wide open experimentation type of, opportunities.
Yeah.
So
do you think it's tougher? And I might have asked you this already, LD, and feel free to chime in, Helen, as like a black metal or death metal, any of that type of metal, I guess. Is it tougher to make it big as a musician versus like pop punk or something a little more mainstream?
I don't really
Or is that your
know.
end goal?
I think that in this, it's 2014. Everyone has the opportunity to make and record music.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as easy to accomplish huge goals as a musician as maybe it was in the 90s.
yeah,
I think that's,
But wouldn't- I mean,
those were the last...
or making a living off your music.
Yeah,
I mean,
making a
certainly
living.
there's people who can, but you have to be really,
And I know that's kind of
really
a tough thing to
brutal
say, because you're like, well, I don't want to sound like, I would just want to, because it would be nice to probably make a living as a musician.
Sure.
I mean,
Oh,
absolutely. But it's, your genre is a little tougher probably to go, I mean, or not.
Yeah, I mean...
is that kind of a hard question, I guess?
A lot of people don't understand the music we're playing, but at the same time, a lot of people do.
yeah. And the people that are into it are very,
Diehards.
very diehard and dedicated.
Yeah.
And, the biggest bands of these types of, styles of music we're discussing here all have day jobs. There's not one band I think I could name that actually is sustaining, a living unless they're like touring all the time.
Even
when they got a
then.
really big label behind. And even then, yeah, a lot of them, they come back home and they're back to work or they're doing something, and you definitely have to keep a day job or find some way to make a living that's going to, sustain. And so much of, I mean, aside from like the necessities that you work for, like, your house, your home, all that stuff, your basic survival needs, a lot of what we work for goes back into these creative pursuits and making this music. So we're already investing not just our time and our love for the music, but we're investing incredible sums of money, whether that's musical gear, we're here now to promote our tour. We're going on a West Coast tour. I'm buying a van. There's several $1,000s right there. It's a lot to really sink. I mean, you have to put that whole making a living out of your mind, because in this day and age, it's just not going to happen. No matter how successful you are at it, it's really rare, especially with this type of music.
Well, and you could hear that. I mean, your passion is there. You can hear it through your music. I think so. When there's a lot of these bands, radio bands that you just could tell they're dead inside.
Yeah, and
they're not really there for the music.
Formulated.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, they're manufactured that way. They have it's a music industry or music business where we play music because we want to. This is part of our inner being. This is what we have inside of us. This is our biggest dreams and goals. Is just to actually put out records, make music with your friends.
Yeah,
our friends, and then in turn to go play the shows for the people and get out and play the people. So and in turn that's good for them because then they get away from the bullshit and monotony of their lives and they can go out for a night and see a band they really like. And you don't ever remember things like money. You remember the memories. And the
I
times you
remember
had.
money.
Well, I remember money if I'd won money in Vegas or found a box of money in the street. That's the only time I remember it. But no, it's as I say, the labor of love thing factors in. But it's, I don't think about it in those terms. I never have, anyways. I think that kills a lot of creativity in my estimation.
If it feels like work, or if it feels too much like work, because it is work. Mm-hmm. But if it feels too much like work, I think something's being done wrong. And I think that we're really lucky in our band, and I think in all the bands we're in, that we're all such good friends. So it really is something that I always look forward to, even after a long day at work, especially after a long day at work. Just to go hang out with my friends, play some music, have a beer or two, and it's really a release of a lot. And a lot of people think it's funny because our music sounds very negative, but I think that for us and for a lot of people who listen to us, it has a very positive
there's
outcome.
There's a cathartic
aspect.
effect. Yeah, and with that too, it's the reason it sounds negative is because we are negative in our outlooks as people. A lot of us are, because live in this world. There's great things that happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, not being a naysayer on that all the time. But there's a lot of things in this world that's just incredibly fucked up too.
Well, and it helps to release that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. If you hold it in. Because I know how it is. Just writing it or getting it out there. Even something as simple as journaling it, you get those emotions and those feelings out of you.
And in some ways, it's a mirror for the world to look at. It's like, well, this is part of it. When has there never not been a war? There's humanitarian effort and a lot of those things go on, but there's a religion, for example, they're completely for profit. They don't give all their money to helping humanity better itself.
They don't?
No. Yeah, so sure they do. Yeah. And they're always the decked out in gold and all kinds of fancy duds, and their buildings are really ornate, and a lot of it. You have to have an infrastructure to run something, right? But it's it's like, well,
sounds like you need to start your own church.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, I am a ordained minister in the Universal Life Church, so I just got to think of
I am myself, so we could start it together.
Yeah, maybe we will. Maybe we'll be like the new L. Ron Hubbard and Joe Smith for the 21st century.
Oh, man.
Could you imagine the two of us, Helen? We'll just we'd tear.
We talked about this, I think, where L. Ron
bring
Hubbard
rattlesnakes and all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah. And anyways, we've mused upon all that stuff before, but I don't know how it always gets to that point. But to bring it back more into focus, it is the reason the music has this dark, foreboding sound is because we have to process these things, and we're not content as human beings to not do anything about it, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, let's talk about, you got a tour coming up.
Yep.
That's obviously why you reached out to me, LD, and I was excited when you mentioned bringing Helen in, and I want to pick your brain about music here in a second, Helen.
All right.
But you got a tour?
Yeah.
Do you know the dates? Because I know you're going to a handful of places. Do you know them off the top of your head, or do you have them written down?
I do.
You probably know them off your head. Right?
I do, yeah. It's so we kick off here in Salt Lake. We're going to do a show here before we leave on August 6th down at Bar Deluxe. That's with locals, Yak Tooth, and Portal to the Goddamn Blood Dimension. So it's a pretty good lineup there to start off, and then from there we go to Seattle.
Which is like the next day, or
no, it'll be the day after that. So it'll be on August 6th here to start in Salt Lake. Then we travel the next day, and then play on. It's August 8th is in Seattle, which is part of a 2-day fest. They're throwing up there. It's called Distress Fest, and a lot of bands. Brain Oil, Graves at Sea, Bell Witch. We were going to tour with a band called Pendulous. They're playing that Seattle date as well. They were going to do the whole tour with us, but they dropped off a lot of dates. But they're doing Seattle on the 8th, and then Portland on the 9th. That's with Brain Oil and Pendulous as well. Eugene, Oregon on the 11th. So we get a little day off on that Sunday there, which would be the only day off while we're out there. And then, let's see, we got Sacramento on the 12th of August, Oakland on the 13th, San Luis Obispo area on the 14th, LA on the 15th, Las Vegas on the 16th. That's the last day.
So that's a decent tour.
Yeah, and it's just a little over a week, but we're packing in as many shows as we can because thankfully there's a demand for it. You know, a lot of people came to us and said, "Hey, do you want to play?" You know, that many shows in California. I was amazed we were actually able to do that. So that was cool that it was being able to set. So we're basically playing every night. And I think it's going to be good for us to get more awareness for the band. And
you'll have the CDs there
we'll have
for sale.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have tons of merch we're bringing with us. And it's good for the metal community in Salt Lake when any of our bands go out and tour. Sabrosa's just left on a tour they're going to soon as well.
Yeah.
They're going like out for 3 weeks. They're going like all the way to the East Coast and coming back. But we're going to do that next year. We're going to do the East Coast. That's our plan. So, and then hopefully Europe someday.
And both you guys have been on tours though, like in other bands, or because this is the first Gravecode Nebula tour, no?
Yes.
I have not been on tour.
With any band?
With any band. I know.
I find that hard to believe.
No, it's true. We've traveled out of state to do gigs that we've been asked to do, but I've never done an actual tour. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. And the only time she's actually been anywhere else to play was Colorado every time. We've been there three times.
We were supposed to do LA and I was the only one that made it out there.
Yeah, that fell through, unfortunately. Yeah, we had some logistical issues. A lot of us weren't in as good a spot then as we are now as far as financially and all that. But
I got a plane ticket and y'all's rental car fell through.
That's what happened. Yep.
So
exactly.
We had someone to stay with. I was like, well, I'm going to LA. I'm going to go to the show anyway. There were a lot of great bands playing. So
yeah, it turned into vacation.
Yeah, it turned into a vacation. And it was a bummer. It was actually Gravecode that was supposed to play. Yeah. It was 2008?
Around there, yeah.
So it didn't happen, but
we're going there now. We're playing 4 shows in California.
Did you guys kind of collaborate and book the tour together, or was there one person that kind of hit?
Well, I mentioned Pendulous, and they're from California. We played with them at the Denver Doom Metal Fest last year, and he actually put out our first 7-inch, split 7-inch we were talking about. And he also is handling the vinyl version of this album, Semp Eternal Void. He kind of facilitated we did a digital release first via Bandcamp, and he kind of facilitated that. I actually self-released the CD. So, but yeah, he helped book a lot of the dates, and it's funny because he dropped off during the week of the 11th, but then we meet back up with them in LA on the 15th. So we're doing 3 shows with them where it was originally to be the whole tour. But so through him, he had a lot of it taken care of, and then actually for Sacramento, the guys came to me. We have contacts everywhere, right? So they're like, well, you said you were off this day. Come play here. We'll set up a show. And then, I said I reached out to someone in Oakland that I've known for years to set that up. And then,
so it kind of just all fell into place.
Yeah, it really fell into place.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Like, cause it's stressful to work out everything that's going to work for everyone as far as like getting off work and schedules and things like that. But this was actually not too bad. It did kind of, that's what's great about the underground metal community is that everybody knows everyone and everybody's willing to lend a hand and help especially on these things like tours, and people will put you up, so you don't have to spend money on hotels and.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's
it's an underground networking community. Yeah. That's never going to go away. And that's what facilitates for our bands to do this kind of stuff.
Do musicians still refer to, what was it? The book, Your Own Fucking Life, the Maximum Rock and Roll. Didn't they put out like a guide on all that touring stuff? Do bands still, I mean, probably not for this tour, obviously, but do bands in general still is that still a thing?
I haven't read that particularly, but I know there's a lot of resources on the internet.
Well, maybe this was a published thing, so probably now with the internet, it's obsolete, and you probably all connect like through Facebook. Now people can go onto your Facebook probably to see the whole tour dates and everything. Obviously,
the whole itineraries there. Yeah.
Do you guys have a website too, or
we
just the Facebook? Boom. Yeah.
Facebook's pretty much what we use. I mean, we could have our own, our own domain.
Gravecode
Nebula. We actually did have that domain for a while, but there actually is an old site up, but I mean, with the social media,
on GeoCities, right?
Yeah, GeoCities, Angel Fire, and we had the cheap little candle GIF that waved. It looks like it had wind blowing on it. Yeah. No, we haven't kept that one.
The talking skeleton.
And the talking skeleton, but those, now we're dating ourselves. We know how old everyone is now. But it's just easy just to do everything via Facebook. Everyone's there anyways, and it doesn't cost you nothing. And I do miss the old websites where you could kind of put the whole graphics and make it look really cool and specific to you. But you could do that with your albums still and your live show, so it's not completely lost.
Before we go too much further, let's play one of your tracks.
Yes.
Whichever one of you want to pick which one we'll play here, and then we'll play one at the end, so they can get a taste of come out and see you guys here in Salt Lake City. Sure. Again, that's going to be at Bar Deluxe. August 6th.
August 6th, and that's. Make sure you come to this one. Just make sure. Doesn't matter. I know it's a Wednesday. Just be there. Let's see. A song we could play off the CD.
I don't care. I know your songs are a little lengthy. But let's play the longest song on this CD. What's the longest song on this CD?
That would be the third track, I believe, is Lunar Dionysian, and that's about 15 minutes. But it's a good, compelling, movement-like song. It's I've never had anyone say like your songs are too long. So
your songs are too long. I just said it.
It's like my favorite story when Syd Barrett left Pink Floyd. Yeah. He was kind of like their hit songwriter, and so hits back then were like 3.5 minutes. After he went crazy and left the band, then they tried to write songs, and write singles, and they flopped all the time. What are you good at? Oh, playing long things. So we'll go back to playing long things, So they were kind of one of the first bands that did that. But let's do. I like Lethal Aether. Would be I think the fourth or fifth track, Lethal Aether. Yeah. We'll play that one.
You okay with that, Helen?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's play that. You could get the CDs at the show at Bar Deluxe on August 6th.
Mm-hmm. And they're at Raunch and all over the place. They'll be at Graywell's starting Monday, a lot of the Graywells.
Okay.
And you can always go to our Facebook page, and there's a Bandcamp link to get the CD as well.
We'll check it out. Is it on iTunes or no?
Not on iTunes, but Bandcamp. You can purchase digitally.
Purchase it right there digitally.
Yep.
Awesome. We'll play that track, take a little break, play that track here, and we'll come back and chat with you guys a little bit more and go from there.
And we're back now.
And we're back. I wanted to talk to Helen a little bit. We talked to LD in 103 kind of about his music history. And since Helen's here, now, do you play any other instruments besides bass guitar?
I do. I play guitar.
Okay.
That was actually what I played before bass. However, I prefer bass.
Why? Why do you prefer bass?
That's a really good question. It feels more natural to me. I like the rhythm of it. I guess I could go back to when I was really small. I've always had an affinity for music. Mm-hmm. In preschool, my parents put me into recorder lessons, like the little flute.
Oh yeah, the little flute. Like at school?
Recorders.
Is it like at school you took lessons?
Yeah,
or?
there was an after-school program at my preschool where we could play recorder, and I really loved that. And then
you probably drove your parents crazy though with that.
Oh no, you know my parents.
Yeah,
they've always been really supportive of everything I do. So they were great about that. So I did that, and then I started taking piano lessons. I was going to a school that had a music program, and I was actually, the music teacher, actually asked me to play drums in the school band. And at that point in time, I was attending a private school, and my parents were sacrificing every penny they had to give us a good education. So drums are a very expensive instrument, as any drummer knows. Yeah. And it was something that my parents couldn't do. And I think didn't want to have that in the house too, possibly. But, so then I started playing piano. I played piano for several years, but wasn't really my thing. And then... Because
you still play like keyboard a little bit, or no?
Yeah, here and there. Yeah. I can. And then I really wanted to play bass. Around the time I was like 10, 11, I started thinking about it. I was listening to a lot of bands, and I remember asking my mom, what's bass? And she's like, oh, it's bass, and it's that sound. And, there was always kind of like this ghost sound in the music that was there, but not quite. And I was always really intrigued by that. And then I found out that was bass or bass, you know? And that was always something that I was really interested in. Rhythm has always been something I've been very interested in, which, I was asked to play drums. Because I was the only one in my class could keep this particular rhythm down on, my lap like this. Anyway, my dad was like, okay, you can play bass, but you need to play guitar first. Which was really smart, because I play guitar. I learned to play guitar. I played that for 2 or 3 years, took lessons.
So you learned like the fundamentals, how to read music and all that.
Well, not with guitar. Guitar is pretty easy with the tablature, but with piano, learned to read music.
Which a lot of musicians don't know how to read music.
Oh, I probably still couldn't. Now it's gone far into the back of my brain.
It's like 80-20, I would say. Tab has made it easy for guitar players for sure.
And I've always been, I play by ear, so looking at tablature even isn't something I do too often unless I can't figure something out, or if I'm just trying to figure out the tuning that something's in, I'll look up some tablature. But typically I like to figure things out by ear.
Which is a skill by itself, really, to be able to do that.
I suppose so.
For you, it's easy, but like somebody like me, I couldn't do it.
Well, it's funny because when I started out with tab and bands I played in, I couldn't play by ear. The guitar player that because there's 2 guitar players, he could though. That was Josh Rocker. Mm-hmm. And he was good at that. I never could really do it. That took me a long time to develop that. Actually, I wasn't able to listen to a record and decipher it just by ear until I was maybe in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it was funny. The other day I was at band practice and I just started playing something. I'm like, oh, okay. So now it's still I'm still learning it. So yeah, it's a good skill to have.
So what was what was the first band that you were in, Helen?
So the first band I was in,
let's dig deep here. Your most embarrassing moment, 15 years old, right? 16 years old. You were young.
Yeah,
you were young.
I was young. So I guess I should go ahead and say, I started playing bass, finally. I finally got my bass, Yeah. And I was like, yes, here's where I want to be. And I don't regret learning guitar. I still play my acoustic guitar at home all the time. But as far as performing and working with other people, I really like being the bassist. That's I think, what I was meant to do musically.
And one thing too, I'll add to her bass playing. I never showed her a riff ever. That's one thing I like playing in the band with Helen is she'll get it without having to. She might ask me a note here and there, but really, honestly, she comes up with her own parts. She doesn't, and they work, Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think bass is just what I was meant to play. And so I finally did. And it's made it so much easier to work with guitarists having played guitar and that I do play guitar. I can watch their hands if I need to. Otherwise, I do that by ear. Super easy for the most part. Some riffs get very complicated and, I need to hear that again, of course, but yeah.
Playing in a band with Furby.
Yeah. I'm in another band where our guitarist is, all over the place, and he and I actually play in different tunings, so that's completely by ear for me. If you watch us play, we're not playing the same frets ever, we're not playing the same notes ever, and that's made me so much better as a musician because it is 110% by ear and trying to figure out what the hell he's doing because he shreds, but in the strangest ways. It's very unique and,
he's
and
awesome.
Very fun. So first band, sorry for the
just spill it.
My first band, legit band, I was 16 years old. I was in a band called The Items.
I actually remember that band. Yeah. I saw you playing. This is before I think we even knew each
probably
other.
Kilby Court.
No, I don't know if the first time, but I remember it was a Halloween show.
Oh yeah,
that was
Greg,
one of the in memory.
Johnson and Travis put on at a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were a pop indie type band. I was actually kicked out of the band
it is what it is.
Musical differences because I wanted to take. I was.
They did you a favor.
We've all had bad.
Yeah. Well, I was writing songs and I was taking it in a darker direction than the other two wanted. They wanted like the more upbeat, poppy stuff, and
it was pretty good from what I remember.
What's that?
It was pretty good. Like
it was fun. It was nothing I ever would have played if I were to create a band, but I wanted to play music so badly. And these people were my friends and still are. And so we had fun and we played music. And so that was my first band, but I was kicked out due to musical differences. No hard feelings. We're all still friends, but so that happened. And then I joined a band a few years later. The guitarist that kicked me out of the band asked me to join a band that he was doing that was darker. And, I know the perfect person for this. Let's hit up Helen. So I was 19 at the time when I joined the Godstar Experience, which was kind of a weird sideshow, freak show, electronic rock, occult.
And are they still there? Are they still around?
Kind of remind me of like some of it was almost like Electric Hellfire clubs at times.
I've heard Ministry. I've heard that.
Then maybe Ministry. Yeah.
It was very dancey, very electronic.
Yeah.
Another style of music that I was never really into, but really enjoyed playing. And
that's about when I met you. When you were starting it. Well,
no, I'd been in it for
that was right when we met because you told me that was one of the first times we hung out. When I went over to Helen's house to kill a hornet's nest.
This is the first time you ever met Helen.
Well, we knew each other. We knew each other, but this is the first time like hanging out together as friends. And she put it out there somewhere. I guess
it was MySpace.
I guess.
Like, somebody come
kill this hornet's nest. And I had this vision in my head of getting like a can of WD-40 and a lighter and like frying this thing,
And then he did.
Is that what I did? I can't remember.
You said that.
Did I burn it?
I
burned it. Yeah.
And I'm allergic to bees, so it was very traumatic.
Yeah, we went. Yeah, it was fun. I went over to her apartment and like we went swimming, and then
we had a pool, a 24-hour pool.
Yeah,
so we went to the hot tub with my neighbor friend, Emil Carr.
Right,
we were hot tubbing at 3 a.m.
Drinking. It was fun. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, by the way, kill that hornet's nest.
That was like the
reward. That was the reward.
Yeah.
But that's when you showed me Godstar. Yeah.
So I did that for a few years. I think 19 to 23 or 24. I did that band. Yeah, and it was crazy. It was really fun. Really good people. But then that kind of phased out. And in the meantime, while I was still in the Godstar Experience, Gravecode Nebula started.
Right.
And that was the first time I was actually playing music that was to my taste. The previous bands kind of became to my taste, but they were never styles of music that I was listening to previously.
And that you were stoked on, probably. You're like, oh, hell yeah.
Well, yeah, and that was a lot of our chats back then, is she wanted to do something that was... I don't even necessarily think she wanted to do something metal per se, but I hate that. Why did I say that? You can edit that out. Per se. It's like that.
I'm just going to put that on a loop now. I'm just going to put it on.
My name is Vampire per se.
We can sample that on tour.
Oh my lord! All right. Anyways. Yeah, she wanted to play something like dark but heavy, because you're like into like I Hate God and bands like that,
and Dax Riggs,
a lot of
dark
acid
Southern
bath,
music,
sludgy
stuff. I've always liked really kind of darker alternative '90s music,
which I was into a lot of that stuff too.
And and I loved metal, and it was really just like I want to play something dark. I mean, like I said, I was kicked out of my first band for being too dark, because I just wanted to be in a band that was dark. And Godstar was definitely dark. We had our dark songs, but it was very dancey, and I'm not such a dancey person.
Oh, come on, Helen. You are a very...
Well, I like the whole fact that you guys had like these stage get-ups, and it was kind of like... So it was kind of in that way, like there's a good like... aesthetic and stage presentation to it. Like there's a show. I like bands that put on shows. Yeah. And not just, it doesn't look like
costumes and performance and God, things exploding everywhere and cyclopses. I was a unicorn girl. We had like kind of a guar monster guy. We had a squid girl.
Oh yeah, I remember I came to see you that when you were wearing like a unicorn horn.
Yeah.
Did you wear that every show?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, we went 100%.
It's very theatrical.
Very theatrical. Yeah. And that was Scott. He was kind of the brain of the band, and he is a crazy artist, really psychedelic, really esoteric, and into occultism, which was my draw to that band, because that's something I'm very interested in. So we would get together on Sundays and drink and make music, and talk, and the whole band wasn't just music, it was just a whole experience to be a part of.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then started doing Gravecode, and that's just been going forever, but it doesn't feel like forever. So.
No.
Yeah.
No, and like I said, we've had a lot of start and stop moments with Gravecode too.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing is when we started practicing with Helen and Anthony and myself, what I liked is like our rehearsals were like shows. We'd put like red lights everywhere and turn all the lights off, and we had the fog machine going in, and it was just us three in there. We just sit there and just drone and just make this just heavy sounding shit, and then we were almost constantly stoned all the time. So it was cool because we could like really, really like go far on that. And, like if we played the same chord over and over, it got to the point where it didn't sound like we were still playing that same chord.
It was pretty self-serving, but it was awesome.
Yeah, and it started out that way. It was good that it went more, we got a little bit more traditional and coming up with more riffs and not just droning like that. But it was a good...
I think getting Russell in the band on drums and not making Anthony take on both of those tasks, because, being the rhythm section, being the drummer, and being the singer.
Yeah, that was...
very difficult tasks to take on at the same time.
That was the big change. That was probably the biggest thing for the band, was getting Russell to play drums, and then Anthony being able just to focus on his stage performance and vocals. And then, after a while, like, we could only do so much with guitar, drums, and bass, and we wanted to add more atmosphere, and then that's when Micah came in on keyboards, which Micah never played keyboards really. And he's like completely self-taught, but he's not playing in a traditional way where he's like, doing all these melodies and stuff. It's very ambient kind of present stuff. And then
kind of rhythmic too. I mean, he's a bass player. He plays drums.
He plays bass. He played Nodium Totus and a lot of other bands. He goes along with
the rhythm section a lot. What he's doing is very rhythmic and also minimalist.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, but it's, it's that whole idea, simplicity is key. You keep that. And if you layer things and everyone's got their part and they're working, it's good. So having Mike. Less is more, right? Yeah, less is more. And then Micah, came in, and then, Russell left. He he recorded this. He's on the Sempiternal Void album. He's a drummer on it, but he left.
Yeah, he moved out of town.
Moved
to
Idaho, and he's playing in another band up there called Eternal North. But after that, then Hadley.
No, we had a couple different.
We
drummers
did try
between.
some people out, yeah, but that didn't work out. But Hadley was kind of the. And Hadley plays in Moon of Delirium, which is Helen and Alex's other band.
Yeah, I'd been playing with Hadley for probably 2 years.
And you still play in Moon of Delirium.
Yes, yeah. So Hadley plays drums in Moon of Delirium, and we play really well together. So we were kind of at a place where we needed a drummer. We were playing this show.
And it was more of a session thing with her. Like, she was just going to help us out with the show. But then it was funny because when we played the show, and that was Denver Doom Metal Fest last year. And also we added a second guitar player. That's Rick, who played drums in Odium Totus. Okay. He's actually stepped down. I know there's so much to absorb here, a lot of info.
You can rewind this if
everybody's still in the same band, so like I said, it's incestuous, right? But it was funny because we played this Denver Doom Metal show, and like rehearsals were going so well, and we were having so much fun, and the show went just fucking great. It was really good for us. And then I remember I went up to Hadley. I was all drunk, and I told her, I was like, "You should just play in our band." She's like, "Helen told me that LD was gonna go and say you should be in the band," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course, because you're a good drummer and you're perfect for it." So now we're, she's playing on the tour. She's been in the band. We've written new music with her. There's going to be another album next year. I mean,
she's incredible. Yeah. She's really fun to play with.
Yeah.
We all love her, and she loves us. And she's sticking around, so
that's great.
Yeah, quite a storied history.
yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be an episode of I Am Salt Lake if we didn't pick your brain about local eating spots, right, LD?
That's right.
Yeah. So
I finally went to Food Truck Thursday. By the way,
did you finally hit it up?
I did. Yeah,
this last Thursday.
I didn't do the last one. It was a couple months ago.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of your favorite local eating spots, Helen? Come on, put you on the spot here.
Oh, God. Okay.
And you know what? If your mind draws a blank, that's fine.
I am not drawing a blank.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Or do you have such a huge list?
Not a huge list. So, my favorite place right now to go to is Desert Edge.
In Trolley Square.
Good. Yeah, that place is awesome.
So, they're like a very small brewery. They have great food. It's really close to where I live. That's kind of my go-to if I can't think of anything better.
Yeah.
I definitely like to have a beer with my meal, so...
That's similar to Stella. Have you heard of Stella? That's by where I work.
No.
They're almost like the same menu, almost.
Really? Yeah, they have a really good vegetarian, Italian potato salad, something. Anyway, it's really good. They have a lot of good vegetarian food, and I'm vegetarian, so...
Those damn vegetarians.
I know. We're taking over the world. But they have good menu, good beer. Trying to think what else.
You go to Finn's. We like Finn's.
Finn's. Love Finn's.
Great breakfast.
Great brunch. Wish they had mimosas.
Yeah.
They don't serve alcohol.
No, they're right across from a church, so I don't think that they are allowed to.
Ain't that some shit? I didn't know that's a thing. You can't serve liquor at a place that's by a church?
Yeah.
Way to go.
Do you think that's really a thing, or do you think
that's what I've been told?
Let's research
I could be wrong.
Well, we could start the first church that serves alcohol.
Well, not to mention it's almost impossible to get a liquor license.
Yeah,
in Utah.
That's true.
What else? The Bayou.
Okay.
They
got good vegetarian food there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beer Hive.
Beer Hive.
Good bar food, good beer.
Helen likes bar food.
The beer bar.
Beer bar?
I haven't been there.
You haven't been to the beer bar?
No.
Oh,
right in Bar X, right next door. It's the same owner there.
Been there.
I'm definitely.
You've never been to Bar X?
I've been to Bar X, but I haven't been to. Is that what it's called? Beer bar.
Beer bar. Right sandwich between Johnny's and Bar X there.
Hot dogs. And
but they're different places.
It's like the beer hive.
They're different places, but they have a connecting door.
Oh, okay.
One's a little fancier. Not Bar X. I wouldn't say is fancy.
Swanky.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I mean, yeah.
Was Bar X used to be Johnny's?
No. Johnny's is sandwiching.
Beer bar.
The beer bar.
I got thrown out of Johnny's. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Probably got thrown out of every place.
Almost everyone. I like it because I get to say, like, I've been thrown out of nicer places than this.
I want my money back.
Yeah. Oh, it's awkward when you have to go back in and get your debit card after you've been thrown out.
I've never been thrown out of anywhere except my own house.
It's happened a few times. I've been thrown out of my own house. Too. I'm with you there. I feel that.
Oh god. But yeah, anywhere that Salt Lake has great beer, and I am a beer connoisseur.
Yeah, Rick works at the co-op. Our guitar player.
Our guitar player works for Squatters.
Squatters,
and Wasatch.
Is it Wasatch?
Beers. Yeah.
Okay.
What's your favorite local beer? Or is that a tough question? Top 3, maybe. Right now, what are you enjoying?
Oh, shit.
Right now, you're enjoying a summer ale.
Right now, I'm enjoying a Uinta Summer Ale.
Yeah.
It's one of
That's
my favorites.
one of my favorites this time of year.
Yeah.
Squatters Chasing Tail is a go-to for me. Love the amber ale. And a third, I'd have to go with Epic. Their amber ale is really good, and their lager is really good. Epic's a place I stop by pretty frequently.
Yeah.
It's right by our downtown
Right by our
music
jam
where
space.
we rehearse.
Ride my bike by, grab a bottle. It's a good practice size bottle, and and Alex.
Yeah, you and Hadley are always bringing in like the big pint
the big
bottles or whatever they are.
Yeah.
They're like a wine bottle actually.
Yeah.
They're huge. They gotta be
And
a
they're High
32
Point.
ounce. Yeah.
But Alex, Moon of Delirium, Alex, he's a good friend of ours,
Hmm.
too. He's in California right now, and he sent me a photo last night of some Baba, the Uinta beer there in a store. And he's like, why the hell do they have Utah beer in California? It's like, we have really good beer here.
Oh, yeah.
You don't understand. I went to New Orleans a few years ago, and they had a huge selection of Squatters beers. Hop Rising being one that I can remember off the top of my head.
Sure.
But, we have awesome beer here. As terrible as our liquor laws may be,
Right.
the breweries we have
and
really
we're
amazing.
lucky.
High West whiskey is really amazing.
I've had
We've got a new gin brewery that's opening up too, which I'm really looking forward to trying as well. God, I'm sounding like an alcoholic. But I'm definitely
Nothing to be ashamed of.
I am a connoisseur. So.
Yeah. No, I just kind of, I always want to pick people's brains on recommendations to grab a bite to eat, keep it local.
Yeah.
Keep it in the city, keep the money here.
What about you, LD?
What?
Yeah, do you have any new favorite within the
local
last
favorites.
year? You mentioned food trucks.
Yeah, the food trucks. What was that one? Submarinos.
Oh my gosh, they got a good Philly cheesesteak. I don't know what you tried from them, but they're pretty good.
That's what I had. Philly cheesesteak.
Did you have a Philly cheesesteak?
Yeah, I don't know if I said Moochie's last time I was here.
Moochie's is good. Moochie's is good.
awesome.
They're about as close to an authentic Philly cheesesteak that I think you can find this far west.
I like their. I've had almost every sandwich there now too, but they had that. I think they have some buffalo chicken sandwich that's really good.
Their fries.
And their fries are awesome.
good.
Their fry sauce is great. But beer wise, I'm now that, like I said, our guitar player Rick's working down at the co-op. He's got me into Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah.
Ghost Rider's awesome, and
That's what, white IPA or
yeah, it's a white IPA,
Yeah.
and then Full Suspension, which I've drank before, which I know is based off Fat Tire, which is. I don't know. Fat Tire's Colorado,
Fat Tire's
right?
an amber ale, and Full Suspension's a pale ale.
Well, I think
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe there isn't no correlation between the two, but
They both have a bicycle tire.
that's
or
what
some
the whole
sort of
thing is. Is
tire.
like they both have
Label.
bikes on the front.
Yeah.
I like them both.
Yeah, they're both good, but and then third one, the Summer Ale is I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are some things I can think of. Trying to think if there's anywhere new I ate. No, that's it.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, let's run down the list. You're playing California.
Oh yeah, we're doing the whole West Coast, Pacific Northwest, down through down through a lot of dates in California.
L.A., right?
LA, yep, definitely.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to go to San Diego and down into Mexico, but certain band members of ours cannot leave the country. And
For reals.
for real, yeah, I'm not bullshitting you. Yeah. No, that wasn't.
Is that you, Helen?
That's Helen and Hadley.
No, it's all good.
They're the Thelma and Louise of the band.
Yeah.
So.
No.
But
No, I've heard like bands. My brother, when we grew up in California, he would go down to Tijuana to see bands.
Yeah.
And he would say they would just go nuts down there, man.
Mexico audiences, the black metal bands. I explained to you about Norwegian black metal last time I was here. They were actually playing in Mexico before they ever came to the States.
Yeah.
Because it was worth it for them. You know, there's crowds and it was probably easier to get into the country too, because a lot of those guys were criminals as well. So
apparently they love violence down there.
You know what though? I hear their metal shows are a little crazy, but no one's like been
it's not
seriously killed or anything.
No murders.
Compared to the U.S., where everyone folds their arms.
Oh yeah, they get crazy. They'll rush the stage.
Do people do that at your guys' shows? Like just like
and
do the little emo chest tap.
Yeah, I think we're guilty of doing it sometimes too. But really, it's the more socially acceptable way in the US is to kind of just keep your own space.
When you can't forget a few glances down at yourself or your iPhone.
Well, when we play,
that's
what I like, I hate that when I see phones out. But well, if they're taking video and taking pictures, that's fine. But I actually don't give a shit about that. But if it's like everyone, it's like, come on, some people get into it and stuff, but no, our audiences are awesome. And it's kind of cool because we have this thing we like to refer to as the doom trip, you know. It's like, think of like an acid trip, really, you know. It's like, we have that dark psychedelic vibe with this band, and we want it to be like a communal thing. And it happens with us, with the audience, where everyone's just like, it's like a trance. And after the show, there's like a big come down period. And it's really awesome. It happens every show, and that was one of our biggest goals from day one, was to kind of like give some sort of drug element to like an intoxicating effect through a musical oral form. Yeah. Not oral like, you know, Jenna Jameson oral, but aural. Let me.
Like we're trying to find the
AURAL orally.
I'll stick with the oral from Jenna Jameson. How can people find you guys online? What's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Just Facebook. You can also email me, hereticwarfare@gmail.com. That's a good way to get directly in contact with me, because I'll handle a lot of, you know, booking, inquiries, any type of, if you want to buy CDs, all that stuff, I usually handle that. So, and
they can go to Bandcamp to buy a CD as well. Go to Raunch, Grey Whale here.
Yeah, locally, Raunch and Grey Whale. Grey Whale doesn't have them yet, but they will.
Well, probably by the time I don't know when next week or two.
In the next week they'll have them.
Get it on tour.
Tour,
come to our shows. This August 6th will be our last show in Salt Lake for the rest of this year, because like I said, we're going into we're riding mode. Yeah.
Oh, it's wintertime. You got to go during the winter months. It's the hibernation season.
But you know, to be honest, I have like the whole next album is just completely conceptualized. A lot of the music hasn't been written, but I know exactly
what you want to do.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be good. And I got to say, all the people that have given us good words and good remarks on Sempiternal Void, it's really done well for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who listens. We hope to bring more of this dark, nihilistic, psychedelic craziness to you, and do what we can to doom trip to the end of the universe.
And beyond.
Yeah, and beyond. And beyond that.
Well, thank you guys so much, seriously, for sitting down, spending a little bit of your time to sit down and share with the rest of the podcast listeners about you guys, about your shows, your music. What song are we going to end the show out with? What song are we doing?
Let's do Abhorrent Absorbent, The Salivation of Sand, yeah.
What is that? Was kind of a mumble.
Abhorrent Absorbent, The Salivation of Sand.
That's probably the longest title I've ever heard of.
Part of it's in.
I thought you were going to say part 2 or something.
No, there is. I'm working on part 2 right now.
Part 2 next album.
Yep.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Anything else you guys want to add before we play this song?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Chris.
Pleasure's all mine.
Appreciate the chance to, this help us for the tour to get the word out there, and for people in Salt Lake as always. And
well, believe it or not, I got a lot of people outside of Utah that listen. So that's why if they're in California or anywhere along the coast,
certainly
come out. It'll be fun.
Yeah, if you're out in California, even if you're not like a big metal person, we give you a pretty non-typical metal show.
Yeah. Your mind might be blown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is usually if they're listening,
You never know what
we blow
Anthony's gonna
minds.
do.
usually if they listen to the podcast, they have a connection to Salt Lake. So it's like go out and support a Salt Lake City band coming through your town. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's really what it comes down to.
Support any band coming through your
Well, yeah,
town,
support
you know?
any band, but buy these guys a bagel or a beer. You
Yeah,
know.
buy me a beer.
Beer for sure.
And if you have any brewery recommendations, we would love
While you're on tour.
And if you could put us up anywhere, too, anybody that's willing to open their home, let us crash. And
that goes for any band, really,
Yeah.
too. That one, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Pay that forward. Do that for bands, and they'll more than likely to do it for you. So, yeah, it's
and
good.
buy their CD when they're on tour.
Oh, yes.
Buy
Yeah.
stickers, buttons, T-shirts, however.
Oh, hell yeah.
Cool. Well, we can go on all night. Let's
No, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to say. Everything was moot up until
just support music.
Yeah, support.
and transcend mundane existence always.